Welcome to Wellness Insights with Dr. Chalmers. I'm Dr. Chalmers. So today we're going to sort of start off and kind of talk about what this whole thing is, what's going on. So I had this idea that we could create a whole new type of, a whole new vertical, if you will, in the wellness industry, in the healthcare industry. A lot of people bag on Western medicine, and I don't think that their arguments are where they need to be directed. Yes, we all the things people say about needing functional medicine and needing to change and needing to focus on other things, they're all right. The problem is that they're looking at an old system that is actually really good at what it does and asking why it doesn't do something new. And my opinion of that is that we need to not belabor the old, we need to create the new. And the reason I say that is because if you look at the way the system is set up, we have ERs, and the purpose of an ER is to make sure you don't die. So if you get in a car wreck, if you get shot, stabbed, fall off a building, something, you have a heart attack, something terrible, we take you to the ER and we go, okay, what do we need to do right now to make sure that you stay alive? That's the purpose of the ER. Just don't die. Let's stabilize you. Let's keep you from dying. Let's make sure that you're going to be as good as you can be without dying. And then once you're stable and once we know you're not going to die in the next day or two, then we send you out to the ICU. We send you to the hospital. We send you wherever. We send you home and tell you to go, hey, follow up with your primary care in the next day or two. Go see a spine surgeon, whatever it is, right? That's what the ER is for. Don't die today. That's the whole definition of ER. Think of it that way. Then we have our primary care. And for years, what we've asked our primary cares to do is come in and we say, Doc, I got a sore throat. Doc, I have a headache. Doc, I have X, Y, and Z going on. Fix it. And so the doc would swab your throat and they would say, aha, we have found that in the back of your throat, you've got a bunch of strep. Now, if I give you this antibiotic, it will kill that strep and your sore throat will go away. And for years, we were like, yay, that's fantastic. So we helped build that model up. And that model is actually really good. The problem we've got into is that now we have more information. Now we know more things. And so now we come along and we go, but doc, that antibiotic you're going to give me that is going to fix my strep, isn't that going to kill off all the good bacteria in my gut, allowing my yeast to overgrow, giving me gas and bloating and potentially celiac and all sorts of issues with IBS and stuff like that? And the answer to that is yes. However, we got rid of the strep sore throat. And so that was what that model is for. And sometimes that's all we can do is be like, look, we have something super serious. We got to deal with it now and just face the repercussions on the other side. That's the old model. And like I said, it actually works really well for what it is. If we want something that is designed differently, we're going to have to build it. And so that's what I want to do. That's what wellness is to me. Wellness is figuring out how can we get the highest quality of life today, and then what plan do we need to put in place to make sure we have that for the next 40, 50 years. So that's what wellness is to me, and we don't have that yet anywhere on earth. And so now what we have to do is we've got to build it. And the way that I'm doing it is I'm using some medical drugs, a lot of medical testing, Eastern medicine testing. We're using German wave frequency technology. We're using a lot of supplementation, exercise. We're using meditation function to de-stress. We're focusing on our relationships, interpersonal relationships. And so that's what wellness is to me. Those are my pillars of wellness. The biochemical, are we taking in the supplements? And obviously, yes, some of the drugs we need. The biomechanical, are we moving enough? Are we moving properly? Are we sitting properly? Are we, is our world conforming to our body, not our body conforming to our world? That's the biomechanical piece. The psychological piece, is our mind in the right direction? Do we spend a lot of time telling ourselves we're dumb? Do we spend a lot of time telling ourselves we can't do it? Or are we on the other side saying life is going to be okay? Life is going to be great. I'm going to make things happen. I'm going to push through things. Stuff's going to be rough and hard, but I will overcome. Which mindset are we in? How are we setting up there? Then we kind of go through our spiritual piece. And this has a little bit of religion piece to it, but it's more of the interpersonal communication, the legacy piece. What have I done to make the world a better place after me? What's my legacy? What have I done? How have I helped people the most? So those are kind of our pillars. That's kind of what we go through. And that's what wellness is to me. It's not hard to figure out, oh, hey, you're an endomorph with, low testosterone and sleep apnea. How do we make you lose 40 pounds? That's pretty simple. or hey, you're a rail thin ectomorph that you want extra muscle. How do we put more muscle on? Okay, that's pretty easy. How do we prevent a heart attack in somebody? Okay, well, we do a calcium CT, we decrease inflammation throughout the blood vessels, we increase oxygenation, and make sure ATP levels are high, and there you go. Long term, we can pretty much prevent heart attacks. But the biggest piece is, how do we make sure that we're ready when bad things happen? That's psychological. I have a lot of people who come in and they tell me, everything in my life is great. I'm like, awesome. They're like, eh. I'm like, well, what's going on? They're like, I make a lot of money. My wife and my kids love me. My business is awesome. But there's just something else. There's something else missing. And I go, what are you doing to give back? And it's so funny because lots of these guys go, man, I give $10,000, $20,000, to the church all the time. It's like, yeah, but you could do that and not even notice it. What are you doing with your time? What are you doing with your thoughts? What are you doing with your mind? Like, how are you giving back? Are you teaching? Are you reaching out? Are you helping people do things to make themselves and make the world better? And I've got several stories. One of my favorite ones, I had this same guy come through. That exact thing, that story basically is from him. I came back a couple months later and he was like, I'm selling my company. And I was like, what? Oh, okay, I didn't mean to start a midlife crisis. What's going on? And he was like, no, man. He was like, I went and I taught business and I taught, marriage counseling. I taught these things and I figured out this was that hole that was inside me that I couldn't figure out what was wrong. I started giving back and that hole started filling up and I started feeling fulfilled for the first time in a long time. I started feeling like I mattered again. And this is one of those guys who makes, several million a year. He didn't feel like he mattered or he had value until he started teaching people how to deal with their marriage, teaching people, how to deal with business stuff until it came along, and he was doing it for free. So that's the spiritual piece, and a lot of people don't see that piece. And so that's one of those things that we like to add in as well. So that's what wellness is to me. So when someone asks me, tell me about this wellness, what is it? It's all of it. It's holistic. You got to look at the whole person. What is going on in your mind, in your spirit, in your chemistry, all of it. How are we getting that all in? So that's what wellness is. So if you're one of those people who goes, yeah, I want in on kind of all of that. I'm going to pick and choose like a cafeteria style. I'm going to take a little of this, a little of that. I'm going to leave some of this, leave some of that. Fantastic. Come on, jump on board. Let's get everything together. If you got questions, ask. Like the only time that I know, what people are worried about or thinking about is through questions. And so that's really where the podcast is for, is to answer some of those longer questions like this. So I give a little bit more detail. Like the ones we do on for the Facebook group, I only have 60 to 90 seconds to give an answer. So this is where a lot of those longer questions are going to be. So come on in, ask your questions. This specific question was on what is it that I consider wellness. So now you have a little bit better idea. Ask your questions at chalmerswellness.com. The longer ones I'll put here. The short ones we'll put on the on Mondays so that you guys can get those quick questions answered on Mailbox Mondays. So, but yeah, so just ask your questions away and we'll kind of get going. Thanks.